Welcome to The First Turn. I'm your host, Hyena, and today, Llama and I are talking about This Week in Warhammer. If you like what you hear, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. Alright, let's get to it.
Hey, welcome to The First Turn. I'm Hyena.
I'm Llama.
Today we're talking about some Warhammer stuff and other topics.
Stuff?
Yeah. We are recording here on the weekend. We've gotten our glimpse of what's for pre-order this weekend, what's for next weekend. We've got a week's worth of like teasery stuff that's kind of come out. We've got a week till Nova, right? 2 weeks?
Week after next weekend.
Okay,
yeah.
2 weeks till Nova. So we're excited about that. We did have a couple of like, I don't know, kind of got it on the head kind of guesses from last week, which I was actually kind of surprised about. We had like I said, pretty much a got it right moment
on a leak
this week where we had the new Kill Teams box set come out, which apparently is going to push both the 1v1 version of the game plus their like cooperative mode where you're kind of teaming up to kill one big monster.
Yeah.
And the
That's a neat idea.
Yeah, the first one they're doing for it is the actual Catan shard of the Nightbringer, which is super cool. I mean, I've had that original one for a very long time.
A lot of people have.
It's similar to like if you think about like the greater demons for the demon armies, where they had their old versions of their monsters, like their bloodthirsters, and then there was these little tiny little guys, right? They were on a 40 square initially kind of thing. Like they're tiny. Well, the Catan shards were like that, both the Deceiver and the Nightbringer. Well, now they've gotten this big glow up, and they're going to be on 80 mil rounds now, and they're going to be huge and very centerpiecey. I mean, think about the Void Dragon. I mean, I think as cool as the Void Dragon was when he came out, I mean, it's a still really cool model.
It is.
It's still so like cerebral, kind of a boundless, formless, entity, weird energies coming out, emanating from inside of him and his head and stuff. Because some of those heads that model had were like trippy.
Yep.
This guy feels so much. I mean, side by side, you look at him, it's like this is the Nightbringer.
Yeah.
But the posing is so much more dynamic. The scale is
correct.
Is correct. I mean, they didn't make the body of the Catan itself that much larger, but they filled the space better. They've given him a better pose. They've defined shapes better. I know, like this one's got the swarms of canoptic scarabs, which I mean, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna leave those off. I think from my project. I honestly think when it comes to like a hobby project, sometimes making things more simple is actually better.
Yep.
I mean, there are plenty of projects that we've done where we're like, I'm leaving this off. I'm getting rid of this. I'm not putting this on here. Like, look at I've seen some phenomenal like Magnus the Red projects where he's got all kinds of armor and stuff on him, but you can leave his like armor off and make him bare chested.
I've seen him do that with Scarbrand.
Yeah, Scarbrand, same deal.
He's just got a muscle chest under.
I know. I think both of us left the chains off of the wings of Be'lakor.
Yep.
Because it just I don't feel like it added much to the model. I think you can get more interesting things going on in the wings than you can with the chains in the way. So, I mean, just things like that, though. Make it simple, leave off the unnecessary bits. I think the scarabs are a little necessary. I'm leaving them off of mine.
Well, and they don't even feel like the Nightbringer to me because so they would feel Void Dragon to me. Sure. It's all machiny, right?
Yeah.
But it's like when I think of the Nightbringer and his lore and what he brings, I just don't picture him with scarabs. I don't know. He feels like he operates as a slave to the Necron race, which those shards are. But I don't feel like he'd be too cozy up to anything.
Right, just rolling with a wave of scarabs. That's a little strange. But yeah, the model is phenomenal. Definitely get one. I might not even use it for 40K. I might use it for Nighthaunt or something. Because I was thinking about that. Is he's kind of spooky. He's got a scythe. I think he's a pretty good stand-in for like a Nagash. If you were making a Nighthaunt themed Nagash, make it a big ghost version of him. I think that'd be super cool. Even though I do have Nagash and it's still an amazing model. So I mean, and we've got the books, some leaks and some information about those two death books, by the way, which we'll talk about here or at the end.
Well, the Nightbringer is it's one of those where it's another 25-plus-year-old model. Maybe even he might have been with the first Necron Bird Ed.
It's tiny.
Those two.
It's tiny and old and metal, and that checks.
But he is a very iconic character going back that far, and it's long overdue. And now, of course, when we saw the Void Dragon, we have figured, okay,
yeah, we're probably going to get all of them at some point.
Yeah, and this did not disappoint.
The only thing I was worried about is it was going to be like, well, here's the Night Dragon or the Void Dragon. Also, here's another kit that makes everything else. I was worried it was going to be that kind of a thing, because I mean that does tend to happen sometimes, where it's like, oh, you want to make Scarbrand? Here you go. You want to make a Bloodthirster? Well, here's a kit for the rest of them.
Separate kit. Yeah.
For just makes everything else. It's like, oh, because I'll buy one of this and then buy 5 of this other kit. Whatever. So if they each get their own kit, I think it's super cool.
Fine.
I mean, it incentivizes GW to do that, because now everyone needs to buy one of each. That kind of thing. So
and they look so distinct from each other. Then, whereas like if you're going to do that combo kit, you always have to have something core, something central that's shared, which then you can always recognize, I think. So for this, I think first of all, his aesthetic of this new one does not disappoint.
Right,
like you pointed out, it is unquestionably the Nightbringer. Just a glow up, a size up, and the updated style of detail.
It incorporates some of that like phasing technology that they've got, where you discorporate into like cubes. It's got kind of that effect going on. It's got very sharp angles, even like on the skin and stuff. It's like these weird,
that living metal.
Yeah, like the living metal, like ridges almost, like where it's like you are a machine, but your legs are leg shaped. And they almost look like muscles at the same time.
Which also harkens back to that whole idea of the Necrons. Some of them don't realize they're soulless automatons. Some are trying to reverse the biotransference, and so they still look humanoid.
Yep.
Definitely not a disappointment, but it sounds like we got it from a leak. Like it's nowhere. We have no idea about a release date. And with that...
Does it sound like it was like promotional material or like rules material that comes in the box? But it was in a different language, and so probably not an intentional thing. Prepping didn't have plans to release it anytime soon, but like, whoops, okay, so here it is. So it's probably a ways off.
I would have to imagine it. And since it was alongside a Kill Team release, there are people who have expressed that they know on the roadmap there are like 1 or 2 other Kill Team releases before this anyway. And I'm not that familiar with the release pattern of Kill Team, so that could be... I mean, heck, that could be end of the year before we get that. What I hope, though, is that when I'm at Nova, this isn't the Kill Team part of the preview. It's like
they've already released it 2 weeks early. Like, don't show this at Nova.
Just cut that out even.
You had a mini roadmap that they kind of showed off that had another spot in between this one and the Deathwatch Kill Team, the proper Kill Team.
Right.
And, I mean, they'd have to show that one, right? They've got to. There's no way they're just like to rehash this.
I feel like that they probably would have enough time to do it. Have a weekend where you film a couple shots on a rotating angle, and then have some people sit and talk about it.
With how they've been talking, they've got probably that done already, right? Because the plan for that event included what they were calling hands-on time with prepared models.
Yeah,
right? Ones that were coming out but already painted and ready to go.
We'll see what that looks like, because this is a completely new approach to their preview event.
Yep.
Which I'll report back on, or maybe I'll call in.
Which again, the more I think about it, the more I love having the bigger, better incentive for going and seeing this in person. Because I mean, I always go to them because I think they're fun.
Yep.
Even when it was
that one year when it was really bad.
Here's a prepared video,
yeah,
and you can watch the exact same thing here as you can at home, only an hour sooner.
Yeah.
Even that day, I still wanted to go watch it.
Same.
We have friends that go to these events with us who, when we say, hey, you want to go to the preview? They're like, no. It's like almost like it's a waste of time because I'll just find out tomorrow. It's like, but what about the excitement of seeing it first and seeing it in person? And like, it's like a spectacle. Like why would you give that up? Well, because there's not enough of an incentive to go to it.
Yep.
Right. It's a free event, so I'm not losing anything by not going. I'm not out any money. All I get to see is some advanced information that the excitement will wear off quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what they think. But it's like if you have a better incentive, store credit, basically.
Yeah.
Hands-on time with the models. You get to talk to the people who painted it / designed it. Like there's a better incentive.
And they're doing a beer tasting at this one.
And free beer. This is the way to keep the spectacle and the majesty of the event in person special.
Well, because I remember there was that one year that you're talking about where it was which was two years ago, I think. It was before the Dark Oath Slaves release, I think, where the preview event didn't show us much. The videos were shot in a vignette style where you couldn't even see everything clearly. They just ran through the whole video straight through, including pre-recorded Q&As. Yeah. And then at the end, it was like, all right, later, everybody go.
Yeah.
And so they thankfully moved off of that really quick and went back to a more traditional style of have Eddie and whoever sit there and talk and then show us new models, feature the new models, talk about the new models. And I preferred when it was like you were seeing something cool that was still a ways off. The online version of it did take a little bit of that away because now it's like, yeah, what's the incentive to be at the thing when everyone watching online will see the Twitch stream an hour later? And it updates on the website in real time. This though, this is cool. We'll see if this takes well.
Right.
They did cap how many people could go to it. So I don't remember what the exact number was, but myself and a friend of mine who are going to be there, we got ours, so we're going to go to it on that Wednesday night, and I'll report back, or maybe we'll do the show virtually or something like that, and we can talk about it. But what I hope is that that's not the kill team part of it. Is
right.
Hey, here's a thing you just saw online.
Well, I mean, like logically, when you think about it, like kind of the roadmap they showed, like there's a gap, right? They left a gap in the middle after the next thing. We've seen the next thing already. That was the kill team from last. We had the Death Watch versus some aliens. What was it?
I don't remember.
Oh man, who was fighting kill team?
It wasn't Vespid. It wasn't.
No. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm blanking at the moment. But they have a 2-player box where it's them versus aliens. I'm blanking it right now. That wasn't the Raveners, was it? Was it the Ravener box?
Oh, it might be the
hyper-adaptive Raveners versus
might be the Raveners.
The actual kill team.
But that one's out now, right?
I don't remember.
The Raveners are out now. Okay. I think nobody can get them though.
Okay. Huh. Well, regardless, I do know that the Imperial side of everything ends up being a pattern kind of following the Ordos of the Inquisition, basically, where it was like, okay, here's the Ordo Xenos, you're fighting aliens. The third one coming out will be Ordo Hereticus fighting Chaos. In the middle there, you've got Ordo Malleus, right, which
fighting demons.
The actual demons, not just the traitors within, but then the actual ruinous powers
from
themselves.
The Empyrean. Yeah, and so
it'd be cool to see a Grey Knight update. Because that's that wing of the Ordo. It's the Grey Knights versus some kind of a demon side, which I don't think we've had demons in Kill Team yet.
I don't think so. Not and these Kill Team sets are always new,
right?
So that could be either a long overdue update to some otherwise pretty old demon infantry. It could be similar to what we're getting with this Catan Shard of the Nightbringer, where maybe they're fighting a demon engine-y thing,
right? That could be cool.
Or possessed on their own, or whatever that big one is.
Or, kind of like, the fact that the monster in this third one is a Catan Shard. The opponent is Chaos. Maybe it'll be something similar to that, where it's like, here's a demon engine versus scenario, but then you've got 2 different kill teams that aren't demons.
Right.
Right? So if it was like, hey, here's Grey Knights, and they're fighting against Tau, but then there's a Khorne, demon engine. Is the opponent? So, whatever they decide to do with it. Probably not Tau, but regardless. Like,
and that's an interesting part of this one is they've got sisters. They've got Adeptus Sororitas, a unit that I think they said we haven't seen in a while that they brought back, but now new plastic, and who knows, it might be a dual kit.
They had the other. I don't remember the names of any of the sisters units.
No,
but it's like a shield unit with pistols. Mm-hmm. That was the pistol release. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was these big like tower shield, these like coffin-sized tower shields and halberds. Whereas this unit's the one they're coming out with is another unit that's like melee-oriented shields and swords, kind of power swords kind of deal. Maybe specialized. Maybe it's got some heavy weapons or special weapons in it. But I don't know that it's. Is it a rebox of that unit? Is it an alternate one that has a similar role? Is it more...
They explained it a little bit on the Warcom article, which I will concede I did not read enough, which I should have done research for a show. But and then they're going against the Raptors, of Warp Talons, or whichever one.
Yeah. Which this is the one we were alluding to of like kind of calling it. I think it was last week. If you listen to that, we broke up our segments into two different, and I think it was funny. I think the timing of the second segment where we were like, hey, maybe we'll get this at Nova, I think I ended up coinciding with the day after we actually got the Raptor announcement, which I think was really funny. But we had recorded that on that Sunday.
We did.
4 days before the leak, by the way.
We did.
But we were talking about trying to figure out how World Eaters would get a jump pack infantry, but if it's a jump pack, 2 jump pack infantries updating Raptors and Warp Talons for all of Chaos. I'm sure some of those armies could use them. They can slot in there. But I mean, we kind of nailed it. We're like, hey, this kit's really old.
Well, and I hope it's like we've seen with some of these where it's a full kit that can make. I don't know if it's going to be 5 or 10, but it can make the full Warp Talons or full Raptors.
And I believe people doing, CSI basically on the photos have determined that with the number of lightning claws and number of like chain swords and stuff that are in that kit, it can make a full unit of each.
Which is great.
Yeah, however you want to build them, there are parts to do so.
Long overdue. Nice update. Yeah. And again, they're still unmistakably those things, just modern aesthetic, modern size.
Yep. I mean, they've kind of gone a little further with some of it because I think because they're specialist units, individual models that play a role in Kill Team, there is some variance, call it, in the style. Because like one of the guys is just a champion, right?
Yep.
And he looks just classic Marine. He's got his spiky shoes and his chain sword. Like he's just a normal Chaos Marine. But some of his other guys who are like mutated are almost like they're not human anymore.
Yep.
One of the guys, I forget what he's called in the Kill Team, but he's got like bat wings instead of a jump pack.
Yep.
And his hands are claws and his feet are like talons and he's got like a weird, maw in his helmet. He's clearly getting on the verge of being possessed, right? Yep. Which is where you get like your Warp Talon-y side of things.
Yep.
But this guy was so far gone that he's still one of them. But he's not using traditional weapons anymore. He is a weapon.
Yep.
And so like he'll still fit in and be part of the unit, and he'll still apply, and he'll still have the same rules. But aesthetically, he's a little bit different than the rest.
Yeah, and we saw that with the hyper-adapted Raveners.
Absolutely. Each one of them has like a different, essentially like a different aspect,
different role.
Them.
Yeah,
right. So each one has a role, and one of them looks kind of like he's got a feeder tendrils, right? So he's kind of lictory. The other one's very much like a warrior.
One of them's got a sack on the back that turns into like a flamer.
Right, and so you've got like different aspects from other like Tyranid creatures that these guys are embodying with. That a regular Ravener can't. War gear wise, can't equip a venom spewer or whatever.
They just have claws. Yep.
Yeah, and so like these hyper adaptive ones have chosen traits for the roles that they're given in Kill Team, and they manifest that through having different equipment.
And I got to tell you, I was skeptical about it, but Kill Team, which isn't they didn't like bring it back from an old game like they did with Blood Bowl, like they did with Legions Imperialis. Like it's just a new game based on an idea of playing smaller 40K, but...
Well, the weird bit was they kind of started off rocky, because it started off as a different thing.
It did.
You remember Kill Team when it first came out was just like a board game.
Yeah.
It was the Elysian Star Striders. Remember that warband that had like an Inquisitor and a Minister and Priest and a couple of dogs and like a guy with a machine gun holding a cigar. Like it was a really weird Kill Team versus like a Nurgle warband. There was like the Furnace Belly guy. You remember all those models?
Yep.
That was
and those weren't available for a long time.
I think that was one of the first Kill Team boxes, and it was like a board game.
It was.
And then it was like, oh, we got more for Kill Team, which is just like the normal kits boxed together to be a versus. And it's like, what is this? What are we going for here? And then they're like, all right, full Kill Team release, and it was like completely different than that.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been both, I guess, a solid game, like a game mode to play.
The rules are supposed to be pretty good because it is different enough from 40K. Each model has its own activation sequence. Like skirmishy, your roster count is always from like 9 to 11 models, or a very, very narrow. It is like massively increasing in popularity.
Yeah. But it's also a great vehicle for giving units updates that need
so
outside
good.
of like book cycles. I mean, how many units? All of them. Every single unit that has been released for that game essentially has been an update that the game of 40K has needed.
40K proper.
You got, I mean, all of your Striking Scorpions, all your aspects, those kind of models. You had Drakari's Nightshade guys.
Yep.
I forget what they're called.
Oh,
Mandrakes.
Mandrakes
was an update.
Yeah.
The Vespids, like all these kits that they just, I guess, didn't want to release or didn't have the time to release during a book cycle. Here's your update you've been looking for.
It's great because then the kits are. So I remember when they did the Scout Marine update.
Yeah.
Which I guess they're one of the worst factions in Kill Team, but it was like, oh, this is just going to be a Kill Team version where each guy's a character, and then you open the kit. And it was like, no, this thing is loaded with bits. The most packed, like 3 sprues I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So that you can make them be the Kill Team versions, but if you go to 40K side, now you can make them however you want.
Scout unit.
However you want. And I have to imagine that's one of the reasons also, I think, why these kits are a little more expensive, because instead of $60 for a box of infantry, they come out and they're like $75. I mean, also a specialist game, but they are packed. They're packed to the brim with bits. So I don't know. That was cool. I guess as a leak, it ended up a hit week for them because so far all 3 kits, the Sororitas, the Raptors, and the Nightbringer.
Yeah, it seems like people
really like
all
them.
3 of them, which doesn't usually happen. I feel
no.
Like usually it's a 50 or 66% rate.
Yeah,
you know, like it's usually one in there that's like.
And once again, folks, that updated Warhammer logo is not an updated Warhammer logo. It's a harken back to the OG Warhammer Games Workshop logo. I
don't see it posted anywhere. Is it still being used?
It shows up in some of their trademark stuff.
Okay.
But they no longer have the 90s red and yellow. They went to the black and white games. And people are like, oh no, say it isn't so. It's like, you don't get it. This is the OG logo.
I still don't
it's
care.
The original
I so don't care. I can still read it, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yep.
It's such a non-issue to me.
Yeah. Well, it's just, but at the same, people made it an issue for the wrong reason. They thought they were stripping us of this thing we all knew from our childhood. It's like, no, they went back because it was the whatever anniversary, like 40th anniversary. They went back to the original logo. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see hobby opportunities with these kits, by the way?
Maybe. I mean, like I like the Night Shard, right? Like I'm gonna get that model regardless. Yeah. Yeah. The Nightbringer. The Night Shard. Yeah. The Nightbringer. I don't know if I said this before, but I kind of like bundling it in with like some of the other releases coming out for like Age of Sigmar, for example. There's a couple books coming out for them.
Yeah, let's talk about the release before the hobby stuff here.
Yeah, so the
2 death factions,
the 2
right?
death factions come out. The Flesheater Courts and Nighthaunt. I've gotten again an idea of what both armies do. I've seen rules. I've seen leaks. I've seen all kinds of stuff. And I've got thoughts.
Well, I'll say this: in the articles they released, for the first time in a while, they allowed these Age of Sigmar articles to actually dominate their page.
Yeah, to actually linger on the front page for a bit, which was nice.
And then the articles themselves were rather robust because they showed off a lot of rules for each, and it looks like we're still in that phase 2 that we expected, and now I think has been proven that this is clearly a different design phase for these books than the first ones.
Now, I think it's not falling in line with what I was expecting of just like, oh, everything else is going to be better than it was.
I don't think better's the right word.
In some cases, I would say way worse.
But it's very different from the index.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I know it's kind of a shock, right? When big changes happen, player bases and players are shocked by the changes. I wouldn't call them bad. They're just different.
Well, and we talked about that a little bit last week, where it's if there are 18 things that change from an index to a book or from a book's previous edition to this one, a lot of the community is quick to go, well, 17 of these things they'll ignore that 17 of them are improvements or add variety to the way the army plays.
Right.
And they'll look at this one thing that was a crutch is gone.
Right.
So the whole army's bad now. I don't think either of these armies are going to have a problem. They have been strong through the entirety of AoS 4.
I don't worry about Flesheater Courts. I think Flesheater Courts net positive. I think they are better. Nighthaunt, though, I think skilled players are going to do well with them.
Well, they've been kind of a boogeyman.
Yeah, they have. Exactly.
Pun.
Yep, they have. But I think they've done a little overcorrecting. Usually when we say, hey, this needs to get better, here's 4 ways they can get better. There have been times when we've seen them implement all 4 of those 4 things.
We watched them do that in 9th edition with Adeptus Custodes.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, you gave them all 4 of the things. One of them would have made them fine. You gave them all of them. That was too much. Well, Nighthaunt, I think, were the opposite, where it's like, man, they're a little too much. They've got these 4 things that are really good, and taking one of them and knocking one of them down will make them fair. They did all 4.
Well, but before the book even came out, they had already done 1, which was, there was a rule that was universal to the entire army, and then they changed it to be, okay, 1 unit gets this.
Right. Which was retreat and charge.
Yeah.
They took that away from the whole army, which the whole army could do that, which is wild. They've kind of taken a lot of the power out of the army's rules and given them very specific aspects of the army's rules prior are now like the detachment rules. And while some of them are very strong, some of them are very good, some of them are marginal, the army itself really doesn't do anything army rule wise.
Okay.
They're like,
and we've seen this.
It's very much like Stormcast. Where Stormcast, like, your army rules are just what you can do anyway. So, like, the Stormkeep thing where it's like, oh, well, you're, 4 of the 5 bubbles of Stormcast's army rules are you can deploy off the board and deep strike in. That's their whole army rule for Stormcast. That's what kind of makes them very lackluster. Is it's like there's no army rule then, is what you're saying. Is they have an alternate way that they can deploy in deep strike.
That's
their whole thing. Yeah. That's Nighthaunt. Nighthaunt has one of their army rules is ethereal. You can't be rended. Or you ignore, you can't be rended. You ignore negative modifiers to your saves. But when you only have a 6-up save, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, the whole army's on a 6-up now.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? You went from like way too good of a save, 4-up with unrendable.
Which was too good.
Plus, like, oh, you ignored positives. But now it's like, okay, so you've got a 6-up save on your entire army now. You can't be rended, but you can benefit from positives. Well, what positives are there in the game? Well, there's one command ability. That's it. They all fly. They don't get benefit of cover.
Nope.
They can't hide.
Nope.
I think one of the changes they should implement to this season or the core rule book or them specifically is don't make them fly. Take fly keyword away from them. Make them move as if they can fly.
But take the fly keyword away. Yeah.
So they can start doing things again, like benefiting from cover and hiding behind buildings and like that kind of shit.
So they took to literally the idea that these ghosts just float through stuff.
Right.
And can always be seen.
Yeah, because fly is such a detriment of a keyword in this edition because you can't benefit from anything.
Yeah.
You can't hide. Enemy armies that can shoot can all hide in terrain and you can't see any of them. You can't target any of them. But you, because you're ghosts, can be seen everywhere through every single piece of terrain. You cannot hide. That's rough, especially when you've got a 6-up save. And they're like, well, we've got a ton of bullets that are just rend nothing anyway, just volume of fire. This is the perfect thing to use on you.
Well, yeah. So it's funny is because in AoS 4 and with the season, I think they put shooting at a premium, which is what we wanted. We wanted AoS to be a closer game, a melee game. And we got that. But now you have an army who incentivizes you to like, oh man, all my shooting that is like 4s/1 is perfect against this Nighthaunt army because they're not going to save on anybody.
Guess what? As they're coming up the field, they can't hide in the terrain like I can.
Nope.
It's like, geez, that's not a great.
Now the army moves very fast.
It's medium fast. It's not even super fast anymore. That's another thing. They took away a lot of the mobility in order to use their like teleporting around the battlefield thing, which they used to be able to do for free. Now it costs command points, and because it's command, you can only do it once per phase. So like they've lost a lot of that mobility.
But let's think about when this was probably written. Is it an overcorrection? Because
I think so.
Well, I don't know how much. If this was written 24 months ago or 18 months ago, they might not have known what the meta looked like.
True.
So I don't know how much of this is an adjustment or was already just written and they thought the format was going to go a certain way.
Yeah.
And now everyone who plays the army is going to have to play it very different. One thing you did talk about is, well, you think the Flesheater Courts are fine. But one thing you did talk about is these are 2 armies that actually have pretty full rosters.
Yeah.
So them getting the Book of the Models fine. At least they get something new.
Well, except for the fact that they're net negative. In terms of model,
net negative.
Because while they gained a new hero, they lost the Karen Wraith, generic hero. They lost the Tomb Banshee, generic hero, and they lost. Remember in the 2nd edition starter
box? Were those
box,
holdovers from?
They were. I mean, they were fantasy models.
Okay.
Yeah, so they weren't great anyway, but they still existed, and it's still you lost them. But what they did lose that wasn't a fantasy model was there was a ghost unit with like glaives that looked kind of like horse-headed. They had like horse skulls.
Oh, yeah.
And they were awkward because they came in units of 4. It was weird.
4.
It was weird. They came in a weird number in like the 2nd edition starter box. Vault of Souls or something of Souls. Soul Wars. But they came in 4s.
Were those the push fit ones?
Yeah.
They did push fit ones of those and one of the Stormcast artillery
so
pieces.
They did separate push fit, but they also came with 4 smaller, different sculpts inside of that box. It was really bizarre. But that unit, which was an Age of Sigmar unit, they cut it.
Okay.
So that's weird. And then they gave us this new hero. But the bigger issue was not only did they change the durability of the ghosts, right? They gave them a 5-up ward, which is still a net negative in durability, right?
Yep.
Going from a 4-up save, 6-up ward to a 6-up 4 or 6-up 5 is just worse.
It is.
Against everything except like mortal wounds, but they weren't. There's not that many mortal wounds in the game anymore, so it's not that big of a deal. But they also took away like one of the biggest tools they had was this Wave of Terror ability, where if you charged, on a number, your opponent was strikes last, or you were strike first, and you gain bonuses and stuff. They've taken away basically everything related to charging to the ghosts. Like all of it's gone. They've like flipped roles of units, so it's like people have a lot of Blade Geist Revenants because those were the best unit, right? The Greatsword Ghosts. Remember how they used to like charge in, they would kill everything, they could do so much damage? Let's make them a defensive unit now.
Yeah, now they have the anti-charge.
Yeah, so now that so many people have tons of these, let's make them a very niche unit that no one's going to play. And it's just like, that's such a weird design choice. Because their ability now is, while they're still good, they're still some of the most reliable hit and wounds in the game, actually.
Yeah.
They're 3s and 3s. Which is for this edition of the game is great. Because usually your 4s and 3s, 3s and 4s, 4s and 2s, something like that. They're 3s and 3s, which is great. But they no longer get bonus attacks from anything. They don't get anything from charging. All they really get is if you control an objective and your unit is on it, if your opponent rolls less than a 7 to charge, they can't charge this. Which is like, when is that useful? So you're controlling an opponent, you're holding it. The opponent is just outside of 3 inches of you. They need to make a 7-inch charge when they're within 4 inches?
When they're 4 to 7 inches away, they have to hit the 7.
They have to roll 7. It's just like, that's so weird. That's an odd rule. Because if you're more than 7, you're making a 7 anyway.
Well, it's way too particular, and so I guess the only hope.
Well, and the joke is, if there's another unit near them, you can still charge them, because it says you can't get within 1/2 an inch of this unit unless you roll a 7 or more. But if there's like a hero that you can get into that hero and then be within 3 inches of those ghosts, you can still pile in and attack them. It's just like, what is this? What is this rule? Who thought this is dumb?
So it's so specific that it better not have a points value.
Right.
And what I mean is, like, it's one thing when there's a really good special rule and it's factored into the cost of a unit that otherwise in points per wound or however you decide it's worth it, like they think they do on Reddit, is like, this is one of those that better not cost a damn thing.
Right.
Because that does nothing 9 times out of 10. So, but do we know yet the points cost updated for the army?
Because the points aren't in the books.
They're not in the books anymore, right?
The points.
Okay.
Yeah, the points will come out as a digital form later. But I do expect them to go up in points because some of these units gained health.
Oh,
that's your trade-off. Oh,
they gained a wound or a health.
Yeah, your saves are so much worse now, but now you're health 2 instead of health 1, or wounds 1 instead of what the wounds 2. But it's like, but they're half as durable. So having a second wound is only good against very specific things like low rend.
Maybe that was why. It might just be to help. They might have been, whenever this was being tested, which is long ago, that it might not be relevant to the current format, and they might find that out quick. Maybe Nighthaunt will come out and they'll bomb or something. Yeah. Or there's a build we're not seeing yet. But it could have been that there was a very specific subset of armies or units that were just getting blanked by Nighthaunt, and this fixes that matchup, but then maybe makes them universally worse.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. It's always hard to judge.
And then they completely changed all their spells. All their spells are like, they took all the mobility spells out, and then they gave them these really weird ones. One of the spells is you choose a unit. When it attacks, everything else that attacks that target now has an additional rend. So it's your second fight of the combat has better rend, which is like, the first combat's always what matters. Like, you're hoping to wipe a unit and not have any retaliation. You know what I mean? Like, tagging an enemy with one unit to gain rend on your next attack is just a weird mechanic. It's just really strange. And that's their unlimited spell. It's like, you expect mass combat constantly to, like, every additional combat increases your rend on the next unit? Like, that's a weird thing. Oh, I'm sorry. The other army rule that I forgot to mention because it's forgettable is you lower, when you're in combat with a ghost, you lower your objective control by the current battle round, that amount. So in turn 1, when you're in combat, your 20-man unit of Grots with a banner becomes control 21 instead of 22.
Because that's going to make that difference. There you go.
Oh, but on turn 5, they're control 17 instead of control 22. It's like, who cares? Yep. Like, what? That is a nothing burger of a special rule.
It is.
That's nothing. Mostly because most games are pretty soundly decided by about turn 3. You kind of know who's going. You kind of know who's going to win on turn 3, unless you're pulling out some like wicked shenanigans,
underdog
style at the end of the game, maybe. But I don't see it. The other thing is there's no more healing and recursion for the army. So like every other death faction has like the abilities to bring models back, and there's almost none of that left. There's no like unit recursion. There's no like restore models to a unit. I mean, there's a tiny bit, but nothing like it was. So it's just like I don't understand what they were going for with this army. It's like you take away damage, you take away durability, you take away recursion, you take away special rules. What is the army? It better cost nothing. It better be able to bring 1 million of them then.
Cheapest chips ghost, maybe.
So I don't know. It was a big shock to see all these things compiled on top of each other. I'm thinking there's gonna be an emergency patch pretty quick after the book comes out, and they're gonna see like.
Well, and for all we know, they might have some sort of supplemental release down the road where they're getting a couple models for an event.
I don't think every unit in the army should have been 6-up save. That's just me. I think trying to knock some of the saves off down to 5s is fine. Like chain Rasports were already 5-up saves. Them going to a 6, it's like fine. Yeah, make them a little bit worse, give them a little bit of rend, fine. Or ward save. But like all your ghosts and heroes being a 4-up save, getting worse. Like heroes went from 4 to 5, which is fine. But like the elite stuff going from 4 to 6, it's like what an amazing nerf. That hurts.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, in the right hands, it can probably be fine, right? If you're taking good fights and you're picking things off and you're playing to the objectives and you're running around your opponent, not really trying to fight them but trying to win the game, I think some people are going to be very successful. The army just doesn't do it's not going to do what it used to do.
Well, and that sometimes is the biggest shock or the hardest thing to get used to. If you've always played an army a particular way from one edition to the next with very few changes, now it's not going to play that way.
Yeah.
That's tough. So there's a chance, by the way, that because of that, it doesn't end up nerfed overall when the right people are playing it and it's winning.
Right.
But if there's people who don't want to change what they're doing, based on that information, it could all of a sudden feel like, hey, I could autopilot my way to 58% win rate.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm at like 38% because I'm trying to do the exact same thing and can't.
Right.
That's tough.
And maybe it's a thing where they're trying to change the army feels across different similar armies.
Yeah.
Right, because I wouldn't want Ghosts to play the exact same way as Nighthaunt or as Soulblight,
or as Flesheater or as Ossiarch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like I can understand wanting to change it and play different ways. This was a more skirmishy army and nuanced, whereas like if you're playing zombies, just throw your zombies at the opponent.
Yep.
Zombies equals ghosts, and just play exactly the same way.
I would like it if all 4 death factions play very different. I could see that. Like Flesheater Courts and Soulblight feel different from each other, so it'd be cool, if the Ghost did, and then we'll see. Ossiarchs haven't come out yet, right?
Flesheater Courts is your like Death Daughters of Cain, right? Where it's like lots of cheap bodies that are fast and they blunder because they get tons of attacks and things like that. They're frenzied, right?
Yep.
It's a very similar feel to it.
Yep.
Whereas like the Death is like, here's some really pissant guys with some very elites, so like your Cities of Sigmar kind of thing. Here's some guys that do almost nothing, coupled with some really hard hitting fast cavalry. That kind of thing,
Blood Knights and vampires and
exactly. So I mean, like I get it. I'm trying to break it up, make it different.
And maybe the Ghost will be that lightweight, more mobile death.
Sure.
And then Ossiarchs could end up super defensive, tanky or something. Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Like I said, the initial reaction was like, "Yikes!"
Whoa.
Yeah, this is a big yikes here.
Yeah.
Whoa. But like I said, it could be some corrections are done in the future. It could be some points make more sense. Could be that it doesn't actually feel as bad on the tabletop as it appears.
Yeah, it could be.
But like I said, changing the cover thing I think would help them a lot because they also can't benefit from any of like the season rules.
Nope.
That hurts. When you have an army that it cannot... I mean, it's like the one season where Ossiarch Bone Reapers couldn't benefit from everything. When they got a bunch of like generic command abilities, and they're like, oh, but you don't get command abilities. You have relentless discipline points.
Yep.
These don't interact with any of the universal commands. You can't use any of them one army in the game. You literally do not function in this edition.
Nope.
It's like, whoa, that's rough. I think the biggest benefit is actually just that... the regiments of renown are really good. Just throw it out there.
Well, so I was just going to say something about that. They seem to be putting a lot of energy into those regiments of renown, hearkening back to the first very failed attempt in 7th Ed 40K of formations, they call them.
Yep.
Now, they've stuck with that style ever since in some way, shape, or form in both games, and I don't know why they're married to that. They're cool. They're flavorful. I think this edition of Age of Sigmar, the regiments of renown have been cooler, have been better, better design, better implemented.
Because there's also not allies in addition to these regiments.
No,
just basic free rules.
You're not souping.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the regiments here are like, you don't get your options. You don't get to min-max this. You get this thing and this special rule, which is typically something that you get from the army that they come from. A special rule is you get a minor version of their army rule.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being kind of like, this is fun and flavorful.
You can play this hyper adapted. You can play this hyper specialized, synergized army that has a restrictive set of units. Doesn't benefit from anything else within the army. Yeah. So those at least look pretty good.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that because they also showed off what the spearheads for these are going to look like, and it feels a little bit like the regiments of renown and the spearhead has become this. Maybe that's just where the creative juices are flowing in the design studio right now. Mm-hmm. Just like it feels like Kill Team on the 40K side is where creative juices are flowing, and it could be they're leaning more towards these skirmishy, smaller scale games than the big maybe the big traditional 2,000 point games will always survive and will always be the feature, but I feel like from the rules writing perspective, they're really enjoying these smaller games.
I do like the idea of running a black coach, though, because that's a regiment of renown just by itself.
Just on its own?
In a different death army, because the special rule that it gets is if it kills or if it participates in killing an enemy hero, you can resurrect one of your other death heroes nearby, one that you've lost earlier. So, like, you've got a vampire on foot that goes and fights and dies. The black coach charges in, harvests the soul of that hero, turns them into a vampire. You get to set up a vampire on the battlefield, that kind of thing. It's like, that's kind of a cool, like, little bit of a recursion. So this black coach regiment of renown has more recursion than the army does.
Well, that becomes then a very strategic piece.
Right. Super cool.
Yeah. That is neat. That is neat. And they've been doing that more and more where it's like, here's a single monster or war machine type unit.
Yeah.
That's in the army anyway.
Terrorgeist is the other one. Is you want to play a Terrorgeist from Flesheater Courts in a different army, you can bring one. And it's like, that's kind of neat. Same with the Draconeth from the new dragon.
Yeah.
You can play a single one of those in a different death army.
Well, they did that with the Demon Prince. It's
like I like this way of doing it. Mostly because it also means that you can only bring one. You get to choose what regiment of renown you want to bring. You can't like spam them and basically soup and play basically a different army than the one you've chosen, which is, I think, a great way of doing it.
That Draconeth we saw, speaking of, they featured an article on Warhammer Community that was showing all these different conversions and paint jobs for it to kind of incentivize the regiment of renown of it.
Yeah, I love it.
Which you had talked about that a long time ago, about using something for a regiment of renown where it was like, well, instead of using the actual lizard man and minotaur or whatever it was that was in the two-man unit, I'm going to use these Skaven models and convert it.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Because does it matter? It's a regiment of renown.
What's exactly that? When they did the Bone Reaper Draconeth, they used the skeleton dragon from Tomb Kings.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't even the Draconeth model. It was a completely different one that they converted to look like a proxy. They were incentivizing on the Warhammer community site using proxy conversions to be a regiment of renown model. Like, I thought that was super cool.
And for anybody questioning that, just remember that if you are a tournament player in any of their games, they are not always as WYSIWYG as you think, and they're not anti-using other models. Because as long as it's a Games Workshop model and you have the right base size, usually profile or whatever, like, you can absolutely use it. And so that's neat that they showed that. Because there are sometimes models that are really cool in another one of their lineups, and I don't play that game, don't have another reason to get it. But that idea where they even had an article featuring, here's how to regiment renown the Draconeth in a million different ways, I like that.
Yeah, super cool. It does make me confused, though, why the Draconeth's rules were so much worse than the zombie dragon in Flesheater Courts, though. Because it essentially replaced that zombie dragon. And it's just like worse in every way.
They just want you to play Lord what's his name.
Yeah, I mean, it's like his stats are worse, character? His save is worse. It's like it's just worse.
Who's the character?
Prince Vordry.
Prince Vordry.
The new.
That's what they want you to play in Soulblight Graveyard. Yeah.
I did think they did a disservice though, because they did an article the other day with who's the best Mortarch, and they kind of showed off like, oh, here's this one, the ghost one, here's the delusion one, here's
Yeah, they showed Lady Olander, they showed Usharan, they showed Catacross.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, and then the rest.
The 3 original, yeah, they suck.
It's like, why would you give them their own little thing? Why did you just like lump them all together and be like, ignore those?
The 3 original that were named his Nagash as Mortarch / Horseman during the end times.
All 3 of them as a group, just give them all.
They'd be the worst ones to work for. They suck.
Yeah. That's so weird. It was so weird.
I wonder if they're going to phase them out.
I might. I would hope that instead of phasing them, if they gave them their own individual models.
Their models are now like 11 years old.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Like the models themselves are still cool.
They're still good.
But the fact that all 3 of them they look identical.
They're from the same kit.
Yeah.
Because they all ride the same mount.
Right. Means that like I would not be surprised if
But if they did a new Arkan, a new Manfred, a new Neferata, and you, instead of having them on that mount, you have them maybe just like Catacross where they're on their own base on foot.
I mean, they don't all 3 need to be riding a thing.
No.
Like, you could have Arkan on foot being a foot wizard, doing his thing.
He's badass, yeah.
Or riding a black coach or something else besides that monster. Yep. But you could have, you can bring, if they're all about nostalgia, bring back the old horror. The vampire horror monster that looked like a skinny quadrupedal Triceratops dragon. Remember that thing?
It looked like a Muppet.
Yeah,
sort of.
It was like, what is this? Bring back that thing, or give him an actual dragon. I mean, we've got Prince Vordry for that now, or give him a horse.
Well, that's just it. You could put Manfred on some sort of nightmare horror, whatever. I don't know. Neferati, you could make all atmosphere-y.
Yeah,
she's whatever. But I agree. I think if they got new models that were separate, I'd like that better. Maybe, I don't know. Time to retire those, perhaps. Are they still in the latest books?
Yeah, it's still in there. They're all in there. But it's like 3 or 4 different armies. It feels like it crammed in one book because they each have a different play style. They each very much incentivize playing in a different way. So I don't know. Yeah. They also are each in a regiment of renown.
Well, see, by the way, I could have seen it if Manfred would have been in Soulblight Gravelords. Neferata would have been in Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I don't know where you put Arkan, though.
Arkan's in Bone Reapers.
Is he?
Yeah. But, like, you could have broken up Soulblight to be like, this army here is all skeletons and zombies. That's Manfred, right? Your classic Sylvanian giant bats and zombies and skeletons,
right.
That kind of thing. And then you've got Neferata, who's more like vampire focused because she's a progenitor.
She was the first.
She's a progenitor of like the vampire bloodlines, right? She creates vampires. I mean, a lot of them are like the women kind of Lamia side of things where they create the manipulation and the intrigue, but she's like very vampire, pure blood kind of like focused. Whereas Manfred's just like, I am a creature of the night.
Yeah.
I say that because he's just so Dracula.
Well, Vlad was the most.
Especially, but he's not around anymore.
No, he's
not. So his nephew.
But Vladdy Daddy.
Cousin? Brother?
It's his son? Grandson?
I don't know.
He's in his lineage.
Related somehow. They're all von Karsteins. But he was, he's so much more classic vampire.
He is.
What you expect from...
Yep.
1, 2, 3 bats.
Yep.
He feels very much like that. So they could have been different armies, honestly. They could have. But it does feel like they were kind of amping up towards something that maybe didn't pay off because they had the Barrow Legions and all that kind of came out.
Well, and
revamped skeletons.
They still talk about all 3 of them in the lore, and so they're very active. I think what's his butt? Mini Nagash.
Arkan the Black.
Arkan is the only one who loyally, faithfully serves Nagash.
Right.
The other ones are always looking for a way to do their own scheming.
Well, I was also noticing in the new Nighthaunt book there's an army of renown, which I'm less excited about that sort of aspect of playing because they're always so themed and they're usually not good at all.
Way too themed.
Like what was it?
Wasn't that a part of why War Machine Mark III was so bad? Was themed?
Yes, it was. But the Mark III War Machine though the themes increased. Your unit capacities and like gave you free rules. I mean these armies around don't really do that. You lose basically all your other rules and you get replaced with these new ones that are usually worse than the base army's rule. But one of the armies of renown that you get in Nighthaunt is actually a ritual to re-summon Nagash's physical form. That's the army of renown.
So does on the hobby side, do the Nighthaunt currently have a Mortarch? Is that
Yes,
who? Is that who Olander is?
Olander. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the
Mortar
Grief.
Yeah.
But this army of renown is crazy. It's weird and it's not very good. But it has to include Nagash. It's an army of renown that's Nagash's legion kind of thing, where they are trying to bring back his physical form. Because you remember the story where he got his ass beat by Teclis?
Yep.
Well, he wounded Teclis in that story, and Teclis had to retreat, and he was wounded. But Nagash's physical form was like obliterated.
Yep.
Well, the soul of Nagash and his essence is always there.
Yes.
You know, he's a lich. He's got a phylactery. He's got a way to come back, essentially. So he's recorporeating.
Yeah. I don't know. His locust was destroyed, but the version of him was right.
Right. So he's reforming. But this army of renown is him undergoing the ritual to come back. So it's very, very, very fluffy. It's really cool. So in the first turn, when in this army, Nagash's movement characteristic is 0 dash. He can't move. He gets reduced number of attacks on all of his weapon profiles, and he's stationary. But he can like cast his spells through other Nighthaunt heroes, use them as like locusts to cast his spells through. But he's stationary. The second term, his movement goes up to 6, and he's still reduced effectiveness and can't pile in and all this. So he's like weakened in the beginning rounds of the game. And then by turn 3, he's back to like full effectiveness, and you can actually start using him again. But that's like how to make it like a fluffy army, as it's like, oh, they're doing a ritual to bring him back. I think they were trying to reflect something that's actually happening in the story, where Nagash is actually coming back to start affecting the story again. Because there was those rumors from so long ago that were like with the Skaven thing happening, which again has not been followed up on. The launch story of like
Age of Sigmar 4.0
of the Skaven coming up out of the ground and merging the realm of chaos with Shyish. No. Realm of Fire. Akshi. Crashing it into Akshi, and like they exist simultaneously now, and they're like merged. There's been no payoff to the story whatsoever.
Nope, not yet.
They haven't elaborated on that yet. But one of the rumors was that Death was going to play a major part in the story, and that Nagash was actually going to be the one to show up and kind of save the day and undo some of the magic, or fight them off. Because one of the things that they showed in, it was a short story or the Skaven book, was someone was like soul sensing the Skaven, and how weird their souls looked, where they were like a giant nest of rat souls.
Yeah.
They were like devouring each other and pulling each other. It was really just one giant soul kind of inhabiting all the Skaven bodies. And that's why it was so self-destructive, is because it was all part of the same creature. Kind of. And so like that idea, I think, with like Nagash showing up and being like, give me all your souls, give me your fingernails. And seeing the Skaven and being like, there's nothing to claim here unless I kill trillions of them and kill all of them.
Yeah.
That like he would be really pissed off at that and like try to eradicate the Skaven on principle, less than it is like, oh, they've offended me by crashing into the mortal realms. It's like I think he'd show up and be like, this is an abomination. This is an affront to what I'm trying to do of like collecting souls.
Yep. Well, and the Skaven, as we've talked about before on the show, have since the beginning of Warhammer Fantasy been a foil to Nagash.
Yep. Oh yeah. And there's that too, right? There's just the fact that it's an old foe. Skaven responsible for his first death.
Yep.
When he first died the first time, they hollowed out his mountain lair.
Yep.
Up in the mountains of Khemri, because it was on a warpstone deposit.
They screwed up his version of Professor X's Cerebro by rearranging stones and stealing them.
I'm pretty sure they were responsible in some way to like ruining his original his current form's resurrection in the old world.
They ruined part of his Necroquake plan. They always are involved in ruining his stuff.
It's so funny.
But
thanks for joining. We hope you enjoyed. Follow us for more of our weekly episodes on YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. You can follow myself and Llama on Instagram. We are at Llama Paints Minis and Hyena Paints Minis. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.